Well, I must say, obviously, it is a concern because we would want to see a strong party, a party that is there to see its vision implemented to the letter. And therefore, anything that would come in the way would definitely be a concern. But I don't think we've reached that stage, and it's unlikely we'll reach that stage. What we probably see is a president who is so focused on his vision that he will not allow anything to come in his way. And I think also, like I think one of the other commentators has said, the best way to campaign is to implement the big four. Once you have the big four, once Kenyans are enjoying this universal health care, once the issue of value addition is entrenched in all levels of our economy, once we're able to see affordable housing across, we will not be running on promise, we'll be running on what we have actually been able to achieve. So I think obviously it would be better when there's great harmony in a lot of these issues, but I think this is a process, like I said, a metamorphosis of sorts that every party goes maybe after an election because things change. But again, also allow me to say that we have when you look at the entire economy and also the country at large, if you look at some of the promises that have been made, one election after the other, and you can go back as far as you want, there are two issues that remain a constant threat to all the promises that we have ever made. And they remain ethnicity and corruption. So it does not matter how colorful your manifesto is, it does not matter how big or grandiose it looks like. If these two issues remain unaddressed, then I think as a country we are going nowhere. Mm-hmm. And it is for this reason that we need to all agree that we need to come together and look at corruption as a threat to the nation, to the very basic fiber of our nationhood. The issue of tribalism, the same. And as we have seen that this cancer of corruption, the cancer of tribalism cuts across. It has no party, it has no tribe, it has no nothing. So I think we really need to come together. And I want to say that the president can't do it alone. We all have to come together, both parties. In fact, this is a matter so big that even Jubilee itself cannot succeed. And I think the idea of also getting the opposition through the handshake was an attempt to say that we have national issues that need to be addressed in a bipartisan manner without necessarily taking party angle. And I think this is really what we all need to agree, find reason to accept it. And I think after that, we'll be able to celebrate as a country. And the issue of corruption is not just about Kenya. It is Africa, it is third world, it's all over the world. But I think how well you're able to deal with it, I think to me will define what sort of a country we'll have in days to come. And we had also reached a state where we were almost about to lose our very own identity as a country. That great investments could not come here because of challenges surrounding corruption or corruption allegations. But I think now is a good start, and I am very sure every sober thinking leader in Kenya today, anybody who has time to think about the future of this country, will support this war, and I'm happy that Jubilee is in the forefront of this. And historically, we can remember that there were many attempts to deal with corruption, but I don't think there is any, to my memory, that has been this consistent and this focused, as we have seen with President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yet, Governor, you are saying that Jubilee cannot succeed alone, but we are seeing the divisions. You were once a legislator and have seen the intra-party wrangles. We are witnessing a different platform when you are a member of different parties. What, in your view, is the solution to the suspicion that is now growing within the party?
I think previously the fight against corruption, in fact, you can remember there was a Musikari Combo sort of report that had a list of shame and so on. I think in the past some of these sort of attempts have ended up being hijacked by the political class and used to score political scores and so on and so forth. But I think now, if you look at the man who's heading the DPP office, he is a man who comes from an intelligence background. And he's not looking for people and then asking them to give them information to prosecute them. He already has information, he has the files, he has everything. And I think this to me is a departure from what we've had in the past. So if you want to judge this particular attempt with what has happened in the past, I think the circumstances are very different, and I think we are bound to have very different results if you pursue it in a professional way. As to Parliament and the institution of Senate and other levels of decision making, I think resistance is expected everywhere. I'm sure the same Kenyans who say that the government is doing nothing are the same ones who will be fast to criticize when the same government does something. So the same parliament not once has complained that the corruption in the country is at an all-time high and that the government needs to do something. So again, when the government comes up with clear methodology and strategy on how to deal with it, then I think it is only right that we support that particular initiative.
Well, Governor, you have not answered my question because I was asking Lee Kinyanjui, the politician. We have seen these wrangles within the Jubilee party, and there's no parliamentary group meeting today. So what, in your view, is the solution out of this? Because if this suspicion continues, as you said, it's going to be dangerous, quote unquote, for the party.
Okay, well, there was supposed to be a meeting today, but that's not the end of everything. I mean, the consultations are going on at different levels, at different caucusing levels, but I think the Jubilee as a party will remain strong and will be able to move forward, and consultations will happen, in my opinion, so that we can be able to build consensus. And that's why I said this is a point where Jubilee now has to get its identity right, get its focus, because at the time when we were campaigning also we didn't have the big four. So now what you're trying to say is how do we realign all our efforts towards the big four? But as to whether the politicians will sit and 100% agree, I am yet to see any one particular initiative where everything was unanimously agreed. Even if you want to look at the Constitution, as we had the 2010 Constitution, there are those who agreed, there are those who didn't agree. So I think in politics, decisions are not basically on a unanimity platform, but more so where will the majority be. And I want to assure you the majority are for a clean and fair society where things are done with minimal, if not least, corruption.
So before I let you go, do you think that the party will hold until Deputy President runs for presidency in 2022?
Well, of course, I may not be a very good prophet, but what I can say is that every effort will be there. And I think what holds us together is bigger than the small issues that may come in between. And I think also for the president, it would be most unfortunate if he was to leave office with the levels of corruption as we can see them today. It would be most tragic because all his legacy would be wiped out in a day if the corruption levels were left where they are. So there's indeed a great and compelling need for us to come together and address that issue of corruption.